This is Ben Television News Roundup, a compilation of major stories in the weekend. I am Tunde Alabi. Thank you for being part of the program today. The United States has announced new sanctions on Russia in connection with its alleged attempt to poison a former Russian spy and his daughter in Britain. The State Department said Russia is being sanctioned because it used a chemical weapon in violation of international law. Former Russian spy Sergei Skripal and daughter were poisoned with Novichok, a military-grade nerve agent in Britain, in March.
Sergei Skripal and his daughter Yulia have both recovered from the March poisoning, but 3 months later, Novichok, the same nerve agent that made the Skripals critically ill, sickened 2 other people. One of them did not survive. Dawn Sturgis died a week after coming in contact with the poison. Her partner, Charlie Rowley, has recovered.
My hands were covered in stuff. Hence, I can tell you it was an oily substance with very little odour. They were on tests on it, and I was in complete shock when they told me it was Novichok.
The couple may not have been targeted, but they touched contaminated objects in a town not far from Salisbury, where the Skripals were poisoned. British Prime Minister Theresa May has urged thorough investigation in both cases.
I am sure the House will join me in sending our deepest condolences to the family and friends of Dawn Sturgis, who passed away last night. The police and security services are working urgently to establish the full facts in what is now a murder investigation.
Investigators have identified at least 2 suspects in the video footage from a store where the couple may have been contaminated. The suspects are believed to be in Russia. Britain has accused Russia of being behind the attack, which the Kremlin vehemently denies. But Moscow has not offered any explanation on how the military-grade poison developed in the Soviet Russia could have left the country. And it is not the first time a former Russian agent has been poisoned in Britain. In 2006, former KGB officer Alexander Litvinenko died from polonium poisoning. A British investigation concluded that the Russian government was behind that murder. Britain has called on its allies to condemn Moscow for the alleged poison attacks.
The simple reality is that Russia has committed an attack on British soil, which has seen the death of a British citizen. That is something that I think the world will unite with us in actually condemning.
The United States and the European Union have expelled many Russian diplomats over the Novichok poisoning. The State Department said Wednesday Russia will be sanctioned for breaking international law by using a lethal nerve agent. A 1991 U.S. law makes sanctions for such violations mandatory.
Young people face deep economic and social issues ranging from lack of jobs, income, inequality to political instability. Many young people around the world are undereducated, underemployed, and living in poverty.
At the museum in Washington, D.C., youth leaders and entrepreneurs gathered to discuss the challenges facing young people around the world. Joining the conversation from New York was the grandson of former South African President Nelson Mandela.
Not only is there youth unemployment, but there are also unemployable youth because they don't have the necessary skills in order to find jobs. So this is why we work through our foundation in order to give young people skills in technology and entrepreneurship.
The latest data from the UN shows more than half of the world's population is younger than 30 years old, but more than 66 million of them are unemployed. Creating job opportunities means changing attitudes and preconceptions about working men and women, says entrepreneur Nasreen Ali Mohammed.
We did have cases where we're trying to support a woman to start her business. She had the skills, she had the ambition, but her husband would not allow that. So, I mean, this is a dialogue it's a domestic dialogue.
Maria Torpakai, Pakistan's first female squash player, believes sports can help young people to see their full potential.
I would say that extremism and terrorism is something that I strongly believe can be tackled by sports. And education is definitely very important. You can't just think of only education, but I think sports and education go along well.
Despite the obstacles they face, Afghanistan's former Deputy Minister of Commerce, Mozammil Shinwari, expressed optimism about the future.
I'm quite hopeful that majority of the next Afghan parliament will be the younger generation, that they will be below 35 years of age.
But that future will depend on young people stepping up and taking initiative, says Tunisian social activist Ayman Abderrahman.
Solutions and better situations do not fall from the skies. We have to fight for them.
But creating opportunities for young people requires the combined efforts of both older and younger generations, says Kurdish-American activist Rudan Balay.
In order to actually hear your voice at the table, the older politicians need to provide a seat for young people at the table, and that's not what they're doing. So, like we kind of talked about earlier, young people need to take it into their own hands.
The discussion comes just ahead of International Youth Day, which aims to draw attention to the cultural and political issues facing the world's young people.
The rise in temperature since the start of the summer has cost many countries millions of dollars due to wildfires and droughts that have been caused by the hot weather. However, German winemakers are looking forward to a bumper crop this year as a result of the heat.
In Paris, residents and tourists are coping with blistering heat this week as temperatures reach nearly 40 degrees Celsius. Water fountains are one way to cool down.
We're not quite used to it being this hot, but the Trocadero is a superb place to just come and have a chill, cool down before we go off and do something else.
Sì, è difficile, però la città è molto bella.
It's difficult, but the city remains beautiful, so we are still happy to be here, even if we feel hot.
E vediamo Parigi.
Portugal and Spain have also been feeling the heat as temperatures continue to rise. To cool down, residents of the Portuguese town of Amora outside Lisbon hit the beach.
The temperatures are very high, but we managed to combat it by coming here to the beach. The water is cool, and it's good in this heat.
It's true, it's summer, but it's too hot, and we can't breathe. Muito abafado.
At the Prague Zoo in the Czech Republic, gorillas had a cool change to their diet this week as keepers treated them to the zoo's version of animal popsicles, fruit frozen in blocks of ice.
We prepared special ice creams where we put fruit into water in a container, put it in a rope, freeze it, and hang 2 blocks in the enclosure.
But the unseasonably warm temperatures has been good for these German winemakers. They're looking forward not only to an early harvest, but bigger yields and bigger profits.
This year we're already harvesting at the beginning of August, meaning the Federweiser will be in the shops by Friday or in places where we can serve it. And that is a great thing. The market is waiting for it.
But what brings a smile to the faces of winemakers may be more perilous for the country's forest. Park rangers say up to 30% of the forest vegetation may be damaged by heat and drought, which also raises the risk for forest fires.
And a new study has warned that the heat waves and other signs of global warming may become the new norm and appearing more frequently. Many parts of the world are experiencing record heat this summer, with temperatures soaring well above 40 degrees Celsius in places where 35 degrees used to be the highest. In California, Britain, Sweden, and many other countries have been hit by wildfires. Australia has also witnessed unusual drought. This report looks at the changing weather conditions.
Officials in California say a wildfire that began burning more than a week ago has become the largest in the state's history. Researchers at the University of California say the climate conditions that make such large fires possible come earlier and last longer. Officials are warning residents to brace for more.
What seems like we should be in the peak of fire season historically is really now the kind of conditions we're seeing really at the beginning.
Forest fires are raging in Europe too. The deadliest wildfire in Greece's recorded history killed more than 90 people last month. Even forests in northern countries such as Sweden and Latvia were caught in flames. Many European and Asian cities are battling heat waves and reporting the highest temperatures on record. Extreme heat has had its effect on agriculture. Farmers are harvesting crops earlier than usual, and prolonged droughts have reduced the quality and quantity of fruits and vegetables. Heat is killing fish in a section of the Rhine River in Switzerland. The Swiss army dropped emergency water supplies for animals in the Vaud region farms.
The
army services are provided free of charge because we are in what is considered a disaster situation.
A new study says the global warming targets set at the 2015 Paris Climate Agreement may not be able to stop these harmful rises in temperature. Countries agreed to make voluntary efforts to keep the world's average temperature from rising 2 degrees Celsius above what it was before the Industrial Revolution. The latest study, conducted jointly by the Australian National University, the University of Copenhagen, and other institutions, says even if signatories adhere to the agreement, processes such as polar ice melting and methane releasing from the seafloor may increase the temperature on Earth by 4 to 5 degrees in the future, making some parts of it uninhabitable. In the meantime, unusual heat waves currently hitting Europe and Asia are expected to become common.
Zimbabwe President-elect Emmerson Mnangagwa has ruled out the possibility of a national unity government. Violence broke out in the country following its declaration as the winner of the election by the electoral body. Although the election was declared to be free and peaceful, protests greeted the results declaration. In the interview with Sky News correspondent, which was monitored here in Betv, Mr. Mnangagwa promised to uphold the Constitution.
Do you feel you won it freely and fairly?
Everybody has declared the process free, peaceful, and transparent.
Any way that you consider a government of national unity, given the split in the vote?
They are talking about me abandoning my two-thirds majority to seek a government of national unity. Not that it's a bad idea, but it doesn't show that there's any need. I am saying the politics should now take the back seat because the elections are behind us. We should now put our shoulders to the wheel for purposes of modernizing our economy, growing our economy together. Those who voted against me, those who voted for me, we say Zimbabwe is ours together. Let's move on.
Once you're inaugurated, you will be the first president that's bound by 2 5-year terms.
Yes.
Are you willing to give a guarantee to the people of Zimbabwe that you will stick to that?
Perfectly. And I always say it, that I will obey the Constitution to the letter, the spirit of the Constitution to the letter. I will remain. If I'm elected for second term, I will do my second term, but I cannot go beyond that. Fortunately, each time Britain has a woman leader, things are better. Because in 1979, when we had Margaret Thatcher, she stopped our war and brought us to the table, and we got our independence. This time with Prime Minister Theresa May. Again, upon my inauguration, she sent an envoy to meet me, say, can we re-engage? We've engaged, and it's so beautiful, it's so nice.
Your nickname is the crocodile, right? Which sounds scary. I mean, there are not many friendly crocodiles. Do you feel you've got a reputation that is feared?
No. I'm as soft as wool.
And what kind of leader do you hope to be in the future?
A people's leader. A listener. A listening leader, a humble leader, a servant leader.
Finally, Nigerians elected members of Nigeria's National Assembly, the presidency, have condemned last Tuesday's blockage of Nigeria's National Assembly by men of the Department of State Services. DSS, the Nigerian government, through the acting president, Yemi Osinbajo, also condemned the action, claiming it was unauthorized. The head of the State Security Services, Mr. Lawal Daura, was subsequently sacked by the government for the assault and affront on the legislature.
Enough is enough. I tell you to shoot this bullet, and Nigeria shall face you. I dare you to shoot this bullet. You cannot come and God to us, you start shooting at us. Have you heard? Have you heard? You come here with backspace. You come here with bullets in your DC to intimidate you. Enough is enough.
Those who were not with us before, those who were with us and left us, and those who have joined us. We must also remember those and resilient. We must not treat the prodigal son or prodigal daughter more than the indigent who has remained an indigent of PDP from the time we elected into the National Assembly to date. And therefore, the national chairman, our message is simple, that what is good for the goose is good for the gander. We don't know what arrangement or whatever the National Working Committee could have made with some of our brothers who came to plead that they want to come back home and they do not want to sin any longer. But we who are sitting with you are saying, yes, indeed, that we also want to be treated like wise. We also want to be treated like wise.
Government of APC, led by President Muhammadu Buhari. And the primary purpose of this government is what? The security and the welfare of Nigerians. As the minority leader of this Senate, I have refrained from saying that so far, we have not seen much result. Yes. The war against insurgency. I will never say that because it is too early. It's too early for us to judge.
As the minority leader of the Senate and the senator representing Akwa. So, like I said, this is a new beginning. We'll ensure that we give him all the cooperation for him to succeed and also pray that the president succeeds so that Nigeria can succeed. The job of the citizenry is to rally around the president to ensure that that country succeeds.
We want to assist the APC government to succeed. We must also pray for Mr. President, who has done something very transparent, that he was going for medical checkup, and he told the whole nation that he was indeed going for medical checkup. So we say that God will guide him and bring him back safely, because that is the transparency we need. We will continue to remain bipartisan with the interests of Nigeria. We are very determined to ensure that we improve the living standards of Nigerians, and therefore we'll support you. We'll support the Senate, we'll support the APC caucus on things that will improve the living standards of Nigerians, and we'll support the President on things we believe strongly will take Nigeria out of recession. On things we believe strongly will take Nigeria out of recession. What we have done in the last 2 years, my dear colleagues, some of them are very celebrant, and you know that. People came to me and said, look at the chambers. We doubled the APC members. Let us nominate somebody for the office of the Senate President. And then I cautioned. I said, no, let's not do that. And then I cautioned. I said, no, let's not do that. Within the 2018 provision, I'm happy again that just like last year, even though it has not been implemented, this year's 2018 budget has raised the capital outlay to about 31%. That is a major improvement from what we used to have in previous years, when we used to have about 20%, 18% capital outlay. And I've always said that you cannot put something on nothing and expect it to stand. Put something on nothing and expect it to stand. We can't speak with both sides of our mouth. When we initially did the first one that Mr. President sent back to us, I granted an interview that it was a step in the right direction. I believe strongly that the National Assembly, including the Senate, that we have the power to fix sequence of elections in the law, as opposed to dates. We cannot approbate and reprobate. As the Senate, we are distinguished people. We can't speak with both sides of our mouth. The sequence as proposed here is such that not only has it taken us backwards, it shows that we look confused. And if we are confused, let's go back to the status quo. It is on that note, respectfully, sir, without joining issues with anybody, that I stand to oppose this. I want to commend you for running the Senate in a bipartisan manner. That when we come here, we don't speak on behalf of party or anything. We speak on behalf of Nigeria. And that has been the reason why in the last 3 years, we have supported almost every single bill and all actions of the federal government of Nigeria without thinking of political parties.
With that report, we conclude the news roundup for this week. Thank you for being part of the program. I'm Tunde Alabi. Enjoy the rest of your week. Bye. Regardless resident status abroad, living outside the shores of one's homeland can really be challenging and sometimes very difficult. Let's be sincere, to keep pace with updates from the host country abroad can really be difficult. Here on Dialogue in Diaspora, we give you every information, every news, every current issue you need to know on updates outside the UK. Dialogue in Diaspora is your link between the world and the United Kingdom. It's your window to Africa development. Here, live on Ben Television.